So what you heard right there is a tone model of my Marshall JCM 950 watt head. It's actually a modified head. There was this clipping diode stage which I had removed, and it's just sweet Marshall distortion. Love that amplifier. You can get a copy for yourself. You just stick around and watch this video. I'll let you know a little later how you can get a copy for yourself, and for free. You just need to be on Tonex, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, I did a release day first impressions video. If you missed that, I'll link that down below. But today it's all about the capture feature of Tonex. Now, to me, that's the most exciting part of Tonex, even though it comes loaded with all kinds of amazing amplifiers right out of the box. You got cabinets, you got pedals, but the ability to capture your own amplifier. Now, think of the possibilities. If you've been eyeing your buddy's amp, just get it to come over for like 10 minutes and you can capture it and keep it for all eternity. It's quite amazing. So we're going to talk about the process. I'm going to identify some potential issues you might encounter. Maybe you already have. I've actually chatted with IK Multimedia about some of these things, so I'm going to enlighten you to some of that information. And ultimately, it's all about Tonex Capture. There's actually a device called Tonex Capture, and what exactly is it? Tonex Capture is a tone modeling and reamplification box. It connects in between your amp and your interface, allowing you to set optimal levels for recording, capturing, and reamping. You can capture the tone of your amp before it hits a speaker cabinet, or you can add a cab and even a pedal into your signal chain. And when you're not capturing your amp, you can also use it as a reamping box. So what Tonex Capture isn't is a load box. So much like when you're playing with a tube amp or you're recording a tube amp, at all times it needs to be connected to some sort of load, so either a speaker cabinet or a load box. So when we're capturing the amp, it's important that you maintain a connection to some sort of load. So I'm going to demonstrate that on how I set up my amp and where that all fits in the signal chain. Now, I'm capturing the amp by itself because I want to capture the essence of this JCM 900, but you can capture your amp with a cabinet. You can even throw a pedal into the chain. There's a lot of cool things that you can do, but I'm going to demonstrate how to capture an amp all by itself. I'm using the DI method, but you can use a speaker cabinet if you're not set up for DI recording. This is just for monitoring during the amp capture process and has no effect on the tone you're modeling. I'll demonstrate the difference. To start, using a speaker cable, connect the speaker out from your amp to the from amp jack on the front panel. And the line input connects to an available output on your audio interface. You can use a regular mono patch cable for this connection. On the back of Tonex Capture, use a speaker cable to connect from the 2-cab jack to the speaker in on your DI load box. Or you can connect this directly to your speaker cabinet if you're not using a DI. Using a regular patch cable, connect the 2-amp jack to the instrument input on your amplifier. And then take the line output and connect it to the line input on your audio interface. You can use an XLR to XLR cable or an XLR to 1/4-inch cable, depending on what your audio interface has available. Just make sure this is a line input and not an instrument or mic input. And lastly, make sure this switch is set to power out if you're capturing a regular amp. The line out setting is for amps that have a line out feature. And set the attenuation dials to 0 to start and attenuate each as you require later when setting up your levels. So the main reason I utilize the DI method when capturing is the same reason why I use it for recording. Well, I can manage my volumes. I am in a home studio here, but it's the ability to monitor the tone that I'm capturing. Now, if I have the amp blaring in the room, the tone that I'm hearing there is not going to translate necessarily to what I'm capturing, right? Because they're not the same thing. So unless you're able to isolate your cabinets, you want to hear through your computer monitor what you're capturing. So any tweaks you're making, you can hear that in real time. Otherwise, it's a little bit of a guessing game. So just a little tip there to remember that what you're hearing in the room is not necessarily what you're capturing. So keep that in mind. Anyway, speaking of capturing, let me show you the steps on how we're going to capture this amp. The capture feature is in the standalone Tonex app and not the plugin inside your DAW. Near the top left corner, click Modeler. The app easily walks you through the modeling steps, so I don't need to rehash the steps here, but I'll fill some gaps and identify some things to look out for. Tonex tone models are a single instance of your amplifier and not an interactive model, so you can capture as many settings as you like so you can have all of your favorite amp settings saved as individual tone models. The first step is to set your amp to the tone you want to capture. It's best to monitor this tone through your computer speaker monitors and not through the amp itself, so you can hear exactly what you'll be capturing. This is the same rule you'd use when recording your amp, especially if you've chosen to record your cab with a microphone. Once you've chosen your instrument and the type of capture you want to create, you need to set the routing to match the physical patching we did earlier. Tonex requires an interface with 3 available physical outputs because Tonex needs 2 outputs assigned to your monitors and 1 output goes to the reamping box. If your interface only has two outputs, you may be able to utilize virtual outputs to compensate because Tonex requires all patches to be identified here or it won't let you move to the next step. Another tip I can offer here is to get familiar with the routing software that comes with your audio interface. Depending on your interface, this software can route audio to areas you might not realize it's going. I almost pulled my hair out trying to set all of this up, only to realize the audio interface routing software was messing up my signal flow. So if you run into any issues, check this before you start blaming Tonex. Once connected, you check your input levels with your guitar plugged into the instrument input of your audio interface. This screen is where you set the amplifier signal returning back to your interface. If your interface doesn't have a level indicator on the device, I recommend using your interface's software so you can monitor the input level to the interface properly. If you've done everything correctly, you can preview your tone before you capture it. And if you need a free hand, the available loops can handle the strumming for you. If it all sounds good, let her rip. The last step is to choose the quality of the model you want to create. This all depends on how much time you have. The first option takes about 15 minutes depending on your computer, but the highest quality option is much longer. I'm on a Mac Studio with an M1 Ultra chip and it took about 5 hours. However, you can use your computer for other things while it processes in the background. You won't hurt the model. Make sure to stick around because I've got some important tech tips a little later in the video to help you with your capturing process. Also, I'm going to share information how you can get a copy of my JCM 900 tone model. And while you're here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And you can join me on Facebook. I've got the Lonely Rockers Club on Facebook. We talk about all sorts of things related to music, and we might just be talking about tone modeling over there. Link is in the description. When the model training is complete, you can compare the new tone model to your amp through the rig, but those are going through the exact same signal chain. What if you disconnect everything and compare the new tone model with the amp with the same settings but running through my normal DI? How close will those sound? You know what, considering that those two amps, the model and the real amp, went through different signal paths, the difference being the Tonex Capture device, they sound extremely similar. You know, a little slight shift in EQ and they're going to sound pretty much the same. You know, I'm pretty blown away by this. You know, it's a lot of fun to be able to capture that amp tone, you know, especially if you come up with something really great and you want to preserve it for all prosperity. Well, you can hook up Tonex Capture, turn it into a preset, and you can recall it anytime you've got a session going on. And it's a really, really great way to save some of your favorite tones. So I want to share some technical tips that might help you if you run into any issues, or just some things that you'll need to know when capturing. If you have an interface that has built-in reamping, then you actually don't need the Tonex Capture device. You've got everything you need right there to complete the capture process. If you've got a reamping box already, same thing, you don't need a Tonex Capture box. However, if you don't have either of those things and you need to get a device to do your own capturing, Tonex Capture is surprisingly an amazing device for the price. It's really heavy. You know, some solid components in there. Even the dials on there, really, really professional. And it's also a reamping box as well. So not only are you going to capture with it, you can also use it as a reamping box. So that's a device you'll get a lot of use out of it. But if you've already got a reamping capability in your studio, then you're not going to need Tonex Capture, unless of course you want to get it. And the last tip may seem obvious, but you got to watch your levels. Especially when you're capturing an amplifier on its own, you might not notice if it's clipping, right? Because an amp without a speaker sounds like garbage anyways, so you're not going to notice if you're clipping. Now, the Tonex software is really intuitive. It takes you step by step when you're checking your input levels on your guitar and then the record levels. Once it's checking the amp, it's watching your levels all the way through. It's really, really important. Now, if you're using the Tonex Capture device, you've got the 2 attenuation dials on there. If you find you're getting some feedback or just the levels are not right, those come in handy. I don't know if you're not using Tonex Capture and you've got your own box, I don't know what features are available on that. But if you've got control of the input levels on your audio interface, space. There's a lot of different levels to manage here. So take your time just to get used to it. It's a little bit different if you haven't done it before, but your levels in and out all the way through the signal chain is critically important to get really good high quality captures. Well, as promised, I want to share my JCM 900 head with you. I'm on ToneNet, that's tone.net. If you are a Tonex user, you can join ToneNet. That will give you access to the social network of amplifiers, cabs, and pedals where guitar players and even bass players from around the world are shaping tone and sharing with the world. I'm going to put my amplifier up on ToneNet. I'm going to put all the information in the description just to make sure you can find me and find the right amplifier. I'm going to be adding some other captures up there as I go because I am really enjoying this capture process. I have to say that I am a tube amp guy, and modeling has been kind of a funny thing for me, but this has actually bridged the two together. You know, if I create some juicy tone in the room and I want to keep it, instead of trying to call it up again, well, guess what? I'm going to capture it so I have it stored so I can just choose the preset and we'll be good to go. It really has bridged the real physical amp world with the modeling for me. My first foray into modeling, so I'm really excited to see where this all goes. And remember, this is first gen software, at least at the time of the taping of this video. It's going to get better and better and better. So I'll put some information in the description as well. If you want more information on Tonex from IK Multimedia, definitely check it out. And if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. If you want to do a deeper dive with me, I'm on Patreon. I have affiliate links, I have merch. It all supports the channel, and I really appreciate that. But the most important thing is to check out another video. I've got one waiting for you right here. And remember, you don't need a band to rock and roll, and I look forward to seeing you again in another video.